Laughter, applause, the rustle of dresses, everything unfolds according to plan, until one person decides to rewrite the ending. In a split second, the room falls silent, like the stillness before a storm. Instead of warm words, a chilling calm. Instead of cliché vows, something no one will ever forget. Faces go pale, eyes dart around, the air itself seems to thicken. He doesn't shout, doesn't accuse. He simply lets the truth speak for itself. And when it all comes to light, it's far too late to look away. This isn't a burst of scandal. It's a bullet to the heart of trust. And the man who was meant to be the hero of the day suddenly becomes someone else entirely. Hello, my friend. I'm so glad you stopped by my channel. If you're here for the first time, don't forget to subscribe and share this video with your friends or family. It really helps my channel a lot. Please tell me in which city or country you watch this video. I value every one of your comments. So, let's get started. People always talk about their wedding day as if it's meant to be the climax of joy, a perfect, unforgettable moment. Mine felt more like watching a train wreck unfold in slow motion. I met Celeste 3 years ago. She was mesmerizing, intelligent, quick-witted, and her laughter had this rare electricity that could thaw even the most frozen hearts. The second our eyes met, I was gone. Sure, we had our highs and lows, like any couple, but when I proposed, I believed we'd survived every possible storm. I had no idea how wrong I was. The cracks began to show exactly 7 days before the wedding. I was hanging out at Miles's place, unwinding after a long, exhausting shift. Miles has always been the no-nonsense type, painfully blunt, but the kind of loyal that never wavers. Mid-conversation, he hesitated, his face darkening. "Julian, there's something I've been holding back," he said. "Those words never mean anything good." "What's on your mind?" I asked, setting down my drink. He ran a hand over the back of his neck, avoiding my eyes. "Are you absolutely certain about Celeste?" His voice was gentle, almost reluctant. "What kind of question is that?" "Of course I'm sure," I replied, already feeling the tension creep in. "Don't get mad, all right?" he warned, stalling for a beat. "I saw her last Friday, at Charlie's." My brow furrowed. "And?" "She wasn't alone," he said, choosing his words with care. I let out a dry chuckle, more from discomfort than amusement. "She's probably hanging out with her friends. What's the big deal?" "That's what I figured at first," he admitted, "until I saw her kissing a guy. And not a quick peck. It was the kind of kiss that makes everything else disappear." I didn't want to believe it. I refused to. I told myself he must have been mistaken, that maybe he'd seen someone who only resembled Celeste. But the more I tried to dismiss it, the more something twisted in my gut. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, Miles's words looping through my brain like a cursed mantra. She was kissing someone else. Not just a kiss, a soul-stealing one. It didn't make sense. We were happy. Or so I thought. But what if I'd been blind? What if the woman I planned to marry was living a lie? The next day, I started noticing things I'd previously ignored. The way she angled her phone screen away from me. The late-night texts she claimed were just work stuff. The guarded tone she used whenever I asked simple questions about her day. One evening, while she was showering, I picked up her phone, my hands trembling. I scrolled through her messages, my pulse racing. But everything was spotless, unnaturally so. No unfamiliar names, no conversations that raised alarms. It felt curated, sterile. But my doubt refused to die. So when she finally said she had plans out, I decided I would follow her. Strangely, she stayed in for days. Then, 2 nights before the wedding, she got ready with unusual precision. Tight-fitting dress, elegant heels, flawless makeup. She looked dazzling, almost glowing as she admired herself in the mirror. That night was supposed to mark the traditional separation, bride and groom spending the final night apart before the ceremony. Celeste told me she'd be staying with Sienna, one of her bridesmaids. "I'm heading out with Sienna and the girls," she said casually, kissing me on the cheek. "We've got some last-minute wedding errands and then dinner. After that, I'm crashing at her place." "Sounds good," I replied, forcing the words out while suspicion clawed at my chest. As soon as the door shut behind her, I grabbed my keys and slipped into my car. I stayed back, far enough not to be noticed, tailing her as she wove through the city until she pulled into a quiet residential street. She parked and stepped out, waiting on the curb. That's when he showed up. Tall, confident, wearing a dark jacket. I didn't recognize him. They smiled at each other, then, without hesitation, they kissed. And just like Miles said, it wasn't innocent. It was passionate, intimate, shattering. My world imploded right there. The woman I was about to marry was tangled up with another man days before we were meant to say, "I do." I couldn't ignore it. I wouldn't. Hands shaking, I raised my phone and began snapping photos. The light was low, but I didn't care. I caught everything. Her lips on his, the way she melted into the moment, eyes closed like it was everything she wanted. My stomach turned, but I kept going. I needed proof. After a few hushed words, they got into her car. I started my engine and followed, hollow and numb. They drove for miles, finally pulling into the parking lot of a small, nondescript hotel tucked away on a side street. Not upscale, just discreet. I parked behind some other cars and watched as they stepped out, fingers intertwined. The way she leaned into him, comfortable, familiar, stabbed at me. I lifted my phone again and captured their silhouettes heading toward the entrance. I couldn't stay outside anymore. I had to confront it. My heart thundered as I parked a bit farther away, got out, and walked into the lobby. Trying to keep my voice calm, I approached the front desk. "Hi," I said, barely containing the tremor in my throat. "Could you tell me what room Celeste Carver is staying in?" The concierge narrowed his eyes at the screen, his mouth drawing into a firm line. "I'm sorry, sir. There's no reservation under that name." A cold jolt rippled through me, but I kept my face calm. She just walked in, not long ago. The woman with the guy. "Can you tell me what room they're in?" He glanced briefly toward the hallway before shifting his gaze back, visibly tense. "I'm afraid I'm not allowed to share that information." I leaned in, lowering my voice though my body was strung tight. "Look, that woman is my fiancée. We're supposed to be getting married in 2 days, and I just watched her walk in here, with another man." "I understand, sir, but I can't disclose a guest's room number," he said, clearly uneasy, his eyes flicking around the lobby as though looking for backup. I exhaled slowly, struggling to keep the fire in my chest from spilling over. "I'm not here to cause trouble. I just need to know which room she's in." He hesitated, glancing over his shoulder, then leaned in just a fraction. "Room 312. Please don't do anything rash." I gave him a curt nod and turned before he could change his mind. My footsteps echoed in the stairwell as I climbed, each one sinking with the thunder in my chest. On the 3rd floor, I paused in front of the door, ear pressed to the wood. Faint laughter drifted out, his voice low and rumbling, hers unmistakably light. The sound carved something open in me. They sounded at ease, content, like I didn't exist. I couldn't walk away. Not yet. I needed to hear more, to grasp the full truth of what I was stepping into. A quick glance down the corridor, then I made a snap decision. I went back downstairs and requested the room next door, 311. I couldn't just hover outside that door, inches from the truth, but blind to it. Inside the adjacent room, I eased the door shut behind me and moved to the wall we shared. The voices came through faint but clear, bursts of laughter, the murmur of conversation. I held my breath, my mind unraveling in disbelief and rising dread. This wasn't how it was supposed to be. I shouldn't have been there, but I couldn't leave. Without thinking, I slid open the balcony door and stepped into the night air. I was hoping for a glimpse, something to confirm what I already feared. But then I froze. Their door opened too. Panic surged in my chest. I scrambled back inside, pressing myself flat against the wall, hidden from view. Just on the other side of the thin divider, I heard them. More laughter, quiet movements. They were standing out there now, only feet away, speaking in hushed, intimate tones I couldn't make out. The proximity was unbearable. Eventually, they returned inside. I let out the breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding, my stomach churning with acid. I couldn't take much more. I needed the truth, unfiltered and undeniable. I looked down at the gap separating the balconies. It wasn't far. I could make it. My pulse pounded as I climbed over the railing, inching across the narrow ledge until I landed silently on the other side. Cautiously, I crept toward the sliding door, palms damp. I nudged it open just a crack, enough to see. Inside, their bodies were tangled in the sheets, locked in a kiss that was both hungry and familiar. Clothes lay discarded. Their movements were slow, unhurried, intimate. Pain bloomed in my chest like a flare. I knew I shouldn't watch, but I couldn't look away. My hands trembled as I pulled out my phone. I hit record, staying still, tucked just beyond the curtain's edge. Every second I filmed felt heavier than the last. After a minute, I stepped back, barely breathing. I retraced my steps, climbing back onto my own balcony, legs shaking beneath me. Back in my room, I stood frozen. My heartbeat thundered in my ears. 2 days. Just 2 days from the altar. And Celeste, the woman I thought I'd spend forever with, was wrapped in another man's arms. The betrayal landed like a fist to my ribs. I couldn't move, couldn't speak, just stood there, trying to process what I'd seen. She was the one I trusted with everything, the one I envisioned a life with. And now? I drove home in a daze, the shock pressing down like wet cement. I knew she'd be at Sienna's place that night. It gave me time, space to think. But the silence of our shared home screamed in my ears. I couldn't get the image out of my head, couldn't unsee it. Something had to be done. She had to understand what she had shattered. The idea of her smiling at our wedding, walking down that aisle like nothing was wrong, made my blood boil. This wouldn't end quietly. She wouldn't get to pretend. Then the wedding day came. Guests gathered, voices bright with anticipation. Celeste floated through the crowd with grace, radiant, composed, laughing alongside her bridesmaids, greeting family with warmth. As everyone found their seats, the hum of conversation faded into an expectant hush. The ceremony was moments away. I stood. "Before we begin," I said, my voice slicing through the quiet like a blade, "there's something I need to say." Every head turned, eyes widened. The room fell completely still. And then, I told them. The mood in the hall shifted. Curiosity whispered through the quiet like a charge in the air. I inhaled slowly, fully aware that what I was about to do would change everything. "I know everyone's been looking forward to the ceremony," I said, my voice calm and measured, revealing nothing of the storm within. "But before we continue, I want to share a few moments Celeste and I have experienced together." Several guests leaned forward, faces lit with expectation, bracing for a heartfelt montage. Behind me, the projector flickered on, casting a soft glow against the screen. The initial slides were innocent enough. Images of tropical getaways, shared laughter, casual embraces. For a brief moment, guilt brushed against me. Just a moment. Then, the tone shifted. The next slide arrived like a blade. Celeste, unmistakably her, locked in a passionate kiss with another man, their bodies entangled in a moment that destroyed every pretense of loyalty. The room tensed. A hush fell over the crowd like the quiet before a downpour. Faces turned sharply, eyes darting between her and the screen, confusion quickly giving way to shock. Celeste froze at my side, the color draining from her face until she looked almost translucent. One trembling hand rose to her lips, as a soft gasp escaped. Her gaze flicked frantically between the images and my expressionless stare. She tried to say something, but no words came. Then came the next blow, sharper, crueler. A video began to play. The footage was raw and unfiltered, captured inside a hotel room, Celeste and the man, locked in intimacy, oblivious to the lens, oblivious to me. My stomach turned as the audio crackled to life. The sounds, their laughter, their closeness, hit harder than I ever imagined. And on the day, meant to mark the beginning of our forever. The room became a vacuum. No one moved, no one spoke. Then the silence broke with a rising tide of gasps and murmured disbelief. The mood boiled over, confusion, anger, embarrassment, all rising in a chaotic blend. "What the hell is going on?" someone yelled. "Is this some kind of prank?" another voice demanded. All attention shifted back to Celeste, who stood paralyzed, visibly unraveling beneath the weight of her exposure. The man in the video had never shown up today. Not that his absence dulled the impact. Her infidelity was undeniable, broadcast in front of friends and family, with no room left for denial. An agonizing silence fell over the room before Celeste found the strength to whisper, "Julian, what is this?" Her voice trembled, barely audible. "Why are you doing this?" "You already did it," I replied, my voice cutting through the air. "I'm just letting everyone see the truth. Please, we can talk about this," she stammered, her voice cracking. But there was no more talking to be done. The screen had spoken. The lie had been exposed, and there was no putting it back in the shadows. Pandemonium erupted, guests murmuring, arguing, questioning. Some looked at her with horror, others looked at me in stunned silence. But I felt nothing, no fury, no sorrow, only a cold, undeniable certainty. Celeste stood motionless, her body trembling, her eyes wet with disbelief. She stared at me, desperate to find words that could undo what had just been laid bare. "Please, Julian, just listen," she pleaded, voice breaking again. But I didn't. I couldn't. A few guests approached her, offering comfort. Others kept their distance, unsure of how to process what they'd just seen. I didn't move. My eyes remained fixed on the screen, on the proof of who she truly was. The woman I had planned to marry, the one I believed I knew, had never really existed. Without another word, Celeste turned and walked out, her heels clacking sharply against the polished floor. Some followed after her, murmuring words of support. I stayed right where I was. I didn't need support. I needed truth. And now I had it. As the room slowly emptied and the last of the murmurs faded, I remained alone in the wreckage of what should have been the happiest day of my life. A storm churned inside me, pain, relief, disbelief. But only one feeling took hold: liberation. Celeste was gone, and so was the illusion I'd been living. In the days that followed, messages poured in: sympathy, outrage, disbelief. But I didn't reply. I wasn't looking for solace. I wasn't looking for anyone. Celeste had vanished from my life, and with her, the dream I once clung to so tightly. The betrayal carved deep, but what hurt more was realizing how blind I had been to the signs. Still, the truth gave me something Celeste never could: a sense of clarity. And with clarity came freedom. This story has come to an end. What's your opinion? Share it in the comments, my friend. And if you like this story, check out other exciting videos on my channel. I'll say goodbye until the next video. See you.